about it.
Okay. So
Because I need to be the center of the video.
tell me.
So on some real shit, like you want it real. Like this is the problem. Everybody's competing for who has it worse or who has it better. Like, oh, in Colombia the poverty is worse. Sure, and it's a different poverty. I'm not trying to talk about, so you don't see a poverty here in this place, but there is a poverty. And I'm not being semantic either. It's a poverty of connectivity. You have massive resources, good enough standard of living, but what is the poverty? The poverty is a poverty of culture. It's a poverty of ability to engage. None of these people engage with their neighbors, for the most part, especially not on some sort of deeper level. So again, I'm calling it has to do with connectivity. It has to do with the fact that it's like, what can you do here that's outside of your home? There's not really much to do. You might take a walk in the neighborhood, but you don't really do too much around here. You mostly would stay in your home. So what I'm getting at, what I'm saying is, it becomes who has the nicer prison.
But you were saying something about taxes.
Yeah, who has the nicer prison? These are all prisons. That's not what it looks like. These are homes, right? These are houses. No, these are prisons. That's what, until people stop competing about who has the worst conditions of the prison, and you have to confront the idea that this is a prison. You live in a prison. Until you accept the notion that that's true, you would never be able to overcome it. You just live in a nicer prison. And so essentially what the life becomes is a willingness to settle for better guards, willingness to settle for nicer conditions in the prison. But until you say, no, I don't want to live in a prison, everybody is enslaved. This whole world is enslaved. This entire matrix is built off of cooperation, whose source is the instillment of fear, the installation of fear, the installation of a deep level of programming on the subconscious mind. Okay, so what it has to do with, again, is which conditions become acceptable, which conditions become just give somebody enough that they wouldn't complain, or they'll still cooperate to a high enough level that they can still serve the system. And the system is bigger than you can even imagine. This is an insane matrix of control, an insane matrix of energy. So what I'm driving at is, like, you could appreciate being in a place like this if you came from a war-torn country, right? You come from somewhere where you have to walk around with a gun everywhere you go. Just on the other side of this river over here, not even 10 miles away, you wouldn't walk anywhere in those neighborhoods without a gun in your pocket. You wouldn't. You just wouldn't. You wouldn't feel safe. You wouldn't feel like you could walk outside without a gun in your pocket. But here we are over here, and so it's like, this is nice enough. This is acceptable. But a place like that, okay, whether it's East St. Louis, whether it's Baghdad, Iraq, where you have to walk in a place with a gun to feel comfortable, to feel safe, you would come somewhere like this, and if you just, like, that place is better because I don't have to do the thing I had to do in that other place. So it's like, it's just a trade-off. It's a trade-off of a certain danger. Like, because it's like, look at this place. What's dangerous about it? There's nothing really dangerous about it, right? But here's the thing. Here's what you can't see, what's invisible to the eye. The fear is insidious. The people who live here, they don't live a more free, enriched life as a whole. Maybe they live a more economically stable life. They go to the grocery store and they don't have to worry about there being food at the grocery store. But guess what? Their food is still sprayed with the same toxic chemicals. Guess what? Their food is GMO grown as well. Grown by corporations for profit. Okay? Guess what allows for this? You have like the direct link is you have a prison industrial complex that creates this. Otherwise, you don't have this. All the wealth you see in America, whether it's middle-class wealth like this or higher level wealth to the likes of Beverly Hills, places like that, what is that built off of? That's essentially built off the backs of the lower class, of the pure slave class. And that's across the world. You're talking about the iPhone that somebody's watching this video on. That iPhone that cost you $500, $700, $1,000. The people who made it, they hardly made $2 in a month to make that phone, to live in a factory where people commit suicide. Those people work 16-hour days and get paid literally slave standard subsistence to make a couple dollars, literally a couple dollars in a month. It's no life at all. But here you sit on your iPhone and you can complain about this or that. It's just higher levels of accepting the way things are and accepting what your life is, because you will never acknowledge that you're a slave. So one thing you'll never do, you think you're free. They've had you since the moment they assigned a number to your name. Look up your tax ID number, your social security number. You're a fucking slave to the system. That's what you were made to be. It's literally you could trace the entire history of civilization. It's in ruins right now. It's an insane world because people don't know where we came from. They have no idea where we came from. They think we came from whatever their genetic storyline is, whether that's evolution or I don't care what it is. They don't know. They don't understand. And here I am, like a lot of people are going to hate to hear something like that. That's preposterous. People want to think that they know where they came from. But hidden in the back of the mind, somewhere in the dark recesses of the soul, is a dark reservoir. It's a dark reservoir of trauma energy. It caused a fractionation in consciousness that you have no mental access to in terms of your conscious mind. You have no access to this moment. But guess what? Let me break the news to you. Human beings were designed to be slaves. Human beings were designed as a slave to mine gold. Literally, you were genetically spliced. You were genetically contrived to be a slave. And that's why from the dawn of time till now, people will be slaves until they figure out who it is that they really are on a deeper level than that. What is consciousness? What is awareness? What is the ability to have a thought, to use a thought? What are we doing here? Until you answer those questions on a deeper level, you're always a slave. Until you come up with your own answer, until you figure out how to use your mind and your creativity and your imagination to produce something that never exists before. For instance, if I showed you a piece of paper right here in this box, right? All these houses are boxes. A box is a house is a box. Great. If I showed you right here what corner was produced, it would be less than 1%. It wouldn't even make sense to assign a number to what has been created out of what could be created. That's like the world that we live in right now is less than that 1% of what the imagination has the potential and power to do. But the thing is, people aren't awake to their imagination. People aren't awake to their potential because they're literally cogs in a greater machine that they have no access to seeing that picture. They have no ability to see it. They think they're living their own lives. They think that they're making their own decisions. But literally, there's so many things, there's thousands of things running them at any given moment. Thousands of systems running all and dictating all their decisions, all their behaviors. If you're responding to coronavirus fear, you're tapped in to exactly the place the system wants you to be. Fear is a highly suggestible state. Fear and excitement. When you're watching the Super Bowl, the reason why advertisers pay so much to hit you at the Super Bowl is the game should be good. It's the most exciting game of the year. You're in a state where all of a sudden any suggestion that's poured into your mind, you're going to want to act on that. That's the highly, it's not just an amount of people seeing it. It's not just an amount of eyes who have the access to this advertisement. It's the state of the viewer. They're in a highly excited state. So similar to that, but even more powerful than that, you have a fear state. In fear, human beings, the human mind, is highly vulnerable, highly susceptible to suggestion. If I can suggest something to you with authority, I can get you to comply quite readily. That's what's being proven with this. If you comply as if you didn't have another choice, social distancing, 6 feet, all, shut in San Francisco. How many of you people right now, you're in San Francisco, in all of Alameda County and the surrounding areas, in the Bay Area, 8 million people are staying inside their residences at a mere suggestion. That's it. It required nothing more. But it came from a high enough level of authority. It doesn't matter if the coronavirus is real or not. And I'm not suggesting that it is or isn't. It doesn't matter for the sake of what I'm saying. It only what matters is that the threshold of truth here is literally nothing. It's so basic that all that would be required, literally, I looked at the death counts in Italy and China. They were about the same, but China had at least 3 times the number of cases, potentially. Why would that be? Well, maybe a lot of the people in Italy who were dying, maybe they already had a bunch of pre-existing conditions and they were very old and about to die anyway. Right? So there's so many ways in which you go on Fox News, the media is just hypnotizing people. It goes for a commercial break right now and it says Corona pandemic right there all the time on the screen. It doesn't matter if it's on a commercial. The rest of the window still says 24/7 coronavirus pandemic. And what does that mean is it's the hypnotic principle of not only suggesting from a place of high authority, but also repetition. The more you repeat something, the easier it is to do and believe. There's no basis for this identity of who you think you are and what is going on in this world. There's no greater basis for it than a conditioned, repeated belief structure. Thought patterns being repeated. That's what causes you to believe who you are and what's going on here. There is no greater criteria of truth. There is no greater criteria of situation and what is real, what isn't real. What's real is what you believe, what you allow yourself to believe, what you comply with, what you are suggested into, and then give yourself ultimately the authority to comply with. So that's the trick. I trace it all for you. The authority is always within your own mind, but at some point, that authority is hijacked by higher levels of systematic structure. For instance, how could you argue with people telling you this is real? You're just some moron. You're just some lonely little peasant watching this video quarantined in your house. How could you argue with the professionals, the doctors, the government? How could you do that? You have no way to do that. Okay? But guess what? This is a hoax. This is a hoax. If you go into a sauna and then do it again an hour later, you do that 2 times for 10 minutes, I guarantee you that if you had even contracted this virus in the first place, it would be gone after you went into a sauna. I can just guarantee you that. And who am I to say that, right? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's real or not, right? But guess what? I'm more certain than anything right now to tell you, I have zero fear of the coronavirus. I could care less about the coronavirus. All I care about is what I let myself believe and what is the implication of 8 million people in the Bay Area complying with a shelter in. And they might have, I don't know, maybe this video gets posted in 2 hours or something. They've declared martial law in California. You have literally the same thing about to happen in New York. The entire population of New York is going to be sheltered in. See, I've been talking about this for years, but nobody ever wanted to listen. Now here's a situation where you go to the grocery store and you can't find toilet paper, you can't find any of your favorite foods anymore, or if you can, they're about to run out, the shelves are emptying, panic is setting in. What's the source of all this?